everything that people are looking for. Now, there are sometimes we have to leave and go run after. But when someone knows the Lord, they obey all the commands. You don't run after them. You got to let them deal with it in the wilderness. So what happens? Do you know the story of Egypt? Who knows the story? They come out of Egypt. I saw that hand. Who knows the story when the Israelites, they're under slavery for how many years? No, guys, 400. Right? They're in slavery because of past issues with God. Remember when they messed up with God, God allowed another nation to take them captive. Sometimes when we keep messing up, and God doesn't just the first time you mess up, right, I'm sending you to Egypt. It's a series of times, and then God just says, I'll allow you to go to what you're really aiming at, and you'll see what it's like. And some of us are maybe on the first step, second step, but there'll come a time where God will just say, go taste Egypt. So what happens? The people are in Egypt. I'm giving you and in Egypt they're under slave, beaten, and God raises up Moses and says, go to Pharaoh, tell him to let my people go. And then there's these 10 plagues. The last plague is where the firstborn gets wiped out. And God says, if you put the blood on the doorposts of the lamb, you put the blood of the lamb on the doorposts, the angel of death will go past for destruction. But if there's no blood, the firstborn in your house will die. Who here would obey that order? Remember, we got a choice. When the hail came, they had a choice to bring in their livestock and their servants. Those who listened were spared. Those who didn't listen. So now the blood's on the doorpost, right? Go past. The firstborn die. Pharaoh says, take them, take them. They go through the desert. They hit a sea, mountains, desert, and here comes the Egyptians again. People start grumbling. Weren't we better off there? You know how Christians are? Weren't we better off there because we never had this stress and then God opens the sea, they go through. So coming out of Egypt represents born again, coming out of slavery. Going through the water represents, you're listening, baptism. Do you see there's a prophetic picture? But what happened? The people grumbled the whole way. Our church doesn't do that, We don't grumble and moan and all that. No one does that, church. It's other churches, It's not this church. We're perfect, right? Now they say, but there's no food, there's no water. And Moses says, I'm going to kill these people. They got me to. God says, Moses, just relax. If you touch this rock, water will come out. Water comes out. Then there's going to be manna in the morning. In the evening, there'll be little quails coming. Provided food, water. They get to the promised land. God says, there's your promise. Send 12 people in. They come back. 10 say, this place got giants. It's too much hard work to get in. There's too much pressure. There's too much this. There's too much that. Caleb and Joshua, we can take it. So I want to give you this statistic. I'm not good at maths, but that's about 16%, Gary? 16% said yes. 84% said no. God said, I can work with the 16. But there's a problem. If most of the people are still thinking like slaves, how do we go? How do I take them into the new? If you're still thinking like a slave, and you're still thinking like you're in Egypt, and you're still thinking like you're in the world, and you're still thinking like, how do I take you into the new? And we heard a message this week about wineskins. And I actually had that before, so I don't know if you saw my notes or... But you can't put new wine into old wineskins. Because wine ferments and it blows. It breaks. You can't put new things of God if you're still thinking old. So God said, before we can go into the promised land, I'm going to have to wipe that generation out. Because you can't go into the things of God if you're still thinking old school. You know, people say, yeah, but we used to do this at church. Eh? Yeah, but then you also had the ox wagons that parked in your parking lot. You know what I'm saying? And there were certain things. We also used to do that. We also used to have to fetch water with a bucket, you know. But you go to a tap now. Now we don't say we used to. God is doing a new thing every day. We can't think old and try to become. Now if God says old things have passed and the new is coming, you can't take your old way and try and put it into the things of God. It's not going to work. It's going to explode. So before, let me just read this. John 14. John 14 verse 15. If you love me, keep my commands, and I will ask the Father, and he will give you another advocate to help you and to be with you forever, the Spirit of truth. What is God going to give us when we obey his commands? An advocate and the Spirit of truth, right? Remember, we're speaking about the Holy Spirit. If you love me, why doesn't he say, I know you love me? No? If you love me. So if someone says to you, I love the Lord, but they don't obey their commands, I think this applies, if you love me. Because if you love the Lord, you'd obey